So today we are going to cover IT solutions, so email size limits and transmission security. We have on the line Brent Myron, who works with Community CPA. He is in the IT department and he works with clients and staff internally to help troubleshoot issues that happen. So Brent, thank you for being with us here today. Very much looking forward to this topic. So if you go to the next slide, we kind of want to brag about ourselves. We have been awarded the BBB Torch Award for Ethics as a firm, which we will accept later in the spring. So it's just something that we are very proud about with our firm and its leadership. So next slide. Most of you probably already know Ying Sa. She is our CEO and managing partner of the firm. So she, besides operating the firm, she is also an author. So she wrote her first book, Appointment with Ying at 8 a.m., which is about starting a business. So for those who are interested, you can pick up the book on Amazon or listen to it on Audible. And she's also working on her second book. And also just something that she does as a volunteer, she serves on the National Taxpayer Advocacy Panel with the IRS to help improve some IRS processes. So this year she's focusing on how to improve on the notices that the government sends out to businesses. So if you ever have suggestions on how the IRS can improve its process, please feel free to email directly to Ying at communitycpa.com. All right, Brent, I am going to hand it over to you.
Okay, sounds good. So first off the bat, a disclaimer, take everything we say here with a grain of salt, do your own research, consult both your own IT professionals and different resources, legal counsel if need be, and we hope this information is helpful, but do your part to do your own research and do with it what you will. So starting off, the motivation for this talk is that email has become so ubiquitous in our modern life, both in terms of business communication, personal communication, all that stuff. And for Community CPA in particular, we have a lot of clients who are emailing us information, previous year's tax return, sensitive documents, payroll records, things of that sort. And there's a couple of issues that pop up with them. Two of them, being why can't I send everything I'm trying to send? There are these limits that are associated with the emails that we're trying to send. And then, how do you know whether or not those things that contain your personal information that you're sending are going to be secure, that, there's no one out there on the internet who's going to be able to snoop on it and see it in between you sending it and us receiving it, or you and someone else you're trying to communicate with. So this talk is going to be trying to kind of cover those two things and give you a little more insight about why these are the case. So starting off, really the attachment size limit that's associated with any sort of email provider or email client has, the reason that it's in place is for security and stability concern. And obviously every email provider like Google with their Gmail or Microsoft with their Outlook, they would like you to be able to send as much as you want to. They want to, give you the best experience as possible. But almost across the board, email providers have these limits in place. And the reason that is there is to kind of just protect their email servers, to protect them from essentially their email going down, right? You could have someone who's essentially trying to maliciously send a ton of information over email, and the web server that handles the email can get overloaded and just kind of go down. So those limits that are put in place by them are basically just to make sure that they can handle all the email that's coming through. And then because of that, there's really not a good way to sort of get around that, just, you know, by tweaking a setting in your email or whatnot. The different email providers also have different limits. So this next table actually shows you just some popular email providers, and you know, each one of them has a limit in place. It might depend upon your level of service. Like for Outlook, there's different types of Microsoft subscriptions, but you're going to be limited to your entire email size, you know, your email content, as well as all the attachments you're trying to put on there to this limit. And there's not a good way to get around it directly in your email. So, but we want to kind of cover, I guess, different ways you can work around it. And if you do get one of those messages back that, you know, you can't send this email because it's too big, or this attachment's too big, what are the things that you can do to try to like transmit what you're trying to transmit? And the first one is compression, which is essentially just a fancy way of saying like your computer is going to take the information that's on the email or your attachment. It's going to try to, you know, press it down a little bit, and then they can send it. There's not really any loss of information for the most part. And when they get it, they just uncompress it and they have your normal attachment. And an easy way to do this is if you're on Windows, if you select a file or a folder and right click on it, there's an option send to, and you can send it to like a compressed or zipped folder, and it will just make a copy of it that is compressed. So if your original attachment was maybe like 20 megabytes and you know you weren't able to put it on your email because that's the limit for your email, if you compress it, you might save like 20%, and you might be then able to put that attachment on your email and get it sent off. And in addition, I mean, if you're sending a lot of information, just having it compressed might make it so that it's faster to send in other situations. The other option is less multiple email. You have something that you can break down. Yeah, I mean, it's just an easy way to do it. If you have multiple things you're trying to attach to an email to send out to somebody, just break that down to multiple emails, kind of let the person know. And, you know, hopefully that gets the job done. Another thing that's a little trickier is often the thing that makes some attachments so big when you're trying to send them have to do with like the quality of an image. So we all have, you know, pretty fancy smartphones these days, and they have like very good cameras on them. And sometimes when you like take a picture and you're trying to send it to someone, it might ask you like, do you want to send, like what size of image do you actually want to send? Because the original image might be like actually pretty high quality. And you can send it in a lower quality, so it takes up less space. But you know, even when you're like scanning a document, your scanner might have settings about how much like DPI, like how many like pixels that are going to be in the resulting image. And if you go in and you tweak some of that, sometimes you're able to like basically scan something and have it be a lot smaller than if you had tweaked your settings up to the very max and had just a very, very high fidelity scan of a document that, you know, it doesn't need to be exactly that. And video is another situation, but yeah, very similar to the camera thing. Another option is there are a number of like splitting apps out there. If you basically Google file splitter and joiner apps, there are different people who have created utilities that will take a file, split it up into smaller pieces that can be then transmitted. And then you can use that same app then to join them back up together. It's probably more inconvenient than any other option that's on here, but it is out there in case you're transmitting a lot of information and it happens to be, you know, you can only email it. And you have to split it up in some way because you can't compress it down enough, or you can't split it up into multiple emails or do any of these other things. But yeah, just if you Google file splitter and joiner app, there'll be a ton of different options. Most of them will be free. And then finally, there's a very popular option these days, which is alternate transmission. So a lot of companies will have upload portals or different Dropboxes that you can log into and basically upload as much as you want to. This is something that we at Community CPA have, because we know that clients are going to be sending us a lot of information. So, I mean, on this next slide, I kind of have a picture of a client portal that we can set you up with, so that you can log in and go to this client flow. and you can upload as many documents as you need to, and we will securely receive them. They're stored in a database that we have, and it's very convenient, I think, for us, and as well as you when you need to submit, all that information for us sometimes. Next, so that's it for the file size thing. So hopefully there's some tips that you can utilize there. I kind of want to talk about email security, and it's a very complex topic, in honesty, that involves this kind of picture here, where you have basically really complicated like encryption methods, which use some very, very fancy mathematics and computer science to take things that we want to send over the web and basically jumble them up, make that a coded message, and then get it to where it needs to be. And on the other side of it, then that person has kind of the tools to decrypt the message and read it normally. And basically every web service, every major email provider will use these types of security protocols. The most common one, or the most prominent one today, is TLS or SSL. So if you ever go to a website, right, often the beginning part of that URL will be HTTPS. And the S there actually stands for like SSL. And it's a security layer that was added to HTTP. And so sometimes if you actually try to go to a website that only has like HTTP these days, your web browser will kind of give you a big warning and tell you that, you really shouldn't go here, or your connection is not going to be secure because they haven't implemented that this type of security protocol. And the easiest way to explain it, I guess, is that there's a lot that's going on in the background. So with TLS, essentially your computer is like authenticating who you're trying to communicate with. There's usually like a third party certificate agent. They're sending you like a certificate with a digital signature on it. And all of that it is going on to establish the secure communication line between you and whatever other type of person you're trying to connect to on the web. So all of the major email providers that we've talked about in this talk are utilizing these protocols when they're sending email automatically. You're not doing anything. They're just doing it in the background. Because of that, I mean, you can be very, very confident that there's no one who's able to kind of get in the middle and even see this message, or even if they do somehow see it, it's basically gibberish because they don't have the right sort of cryptographic key to unlock the message, and the only person who's going to have that if they're following this protocol is the person on the other side of it, which is, you're trying to communicate with Gmail to send an email, or Gmail's communicating with Outlook to try to send an email between them. So it just creates this very secure connection between these things. Yeah. So most email security providers have this baked in, and one of the things is, I guess, with any sort of security matter, there's constant developments. So SSL was the first implementation of TLS, but TLS has become more ubiquitous now, and they're always updating these protocols. There are very, very well-paid security researchers at all these big companies who are making sure that they have the best implemented, and that their clients are safe and secure. And then I guess the other thing is, even if you don't trust this base layer of things, there are options, different like plugins that you can basically Google for additional ways to encrypt a message before you send it. So even you're not even sending the plain text initially, you might be adding a layer of encryption before it goes through this transport layer of encryption. And then on the other side of it, they have to go through another step, and you can do that, but it usually just adds more friction, more work. We're really like the TLS protocol that's widely implemented is very, very comprehensive, and it gets the job done. But once again, security it is an omnipresent concern. And part of it is like, just using as much common sense as you can, and trusting these large services that they are doing what they can. No one's information is ever going to be like perfectly safe, and it is kind of a matter that if someone who really wants to hack you or do something, if they're really targeting you, like it's possible for them to maybe get access, not really through this encryption way, but they might just be able to get a login, and or there's lists of passwords that have been leaked on the dark web and things like that. But yeah, generally you can trust that your security for your email is top notch. And you can kind of, if you really are interested, you can check. There are different ways you can check like the headers on your email to see that they're using the TLS encryption. But for the most part, you're good to go. So finally, I guess this is my information. It's my email, brent@communitycpa.com, our number, in our office. If you ever have an IT question or concern, or you're looking for an IT solution for your small business, we're here. We're willing to help think about a solution.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brent. I think that was really helpful. And a common concern that we have had from clients is, if they email their tax or personal documents to us, is it secure? So I think this.
And what is, most email is email with these protocols is very, very secure. But like even just texting documents, most, I know Apple's messaging protocol is very, very secure. Faxing has always been kind of safe. It's always been the backup until we've sort of beefed up these security measures generally on the web. And you can always give us a paper copy. If you need to drop it off at our office, and we got a Dropbox. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, friends. And again, yes, we are Community CPA, so we're open Monday through Saturdays, 8:30 to 5:30. Yes, please give us a call if you need any help with your taxes or business financial services. So we're happy to help. Thank you so much for your time today, Brent.
Thank you. Hope I was helpful.
Yes. Take care, everyone. Thank you.